This is the TRU Leader Podcast. Today we talk about 4 ways that leaders can put the brakes on their goals and desires, which limits their success on leading and living. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the TRU Leader Podcast. I'm Dr. Tracy Christopherson.
And I'm Michelle Trosett.
We are life and business besties, leadership coaches and mentors, and polarity intelligence experts. We're the authors of Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership, and co-founders of Missing Logic.
We are here to help high-achieving leaders break through leadership norms that cause them suffering at work and home. If you're looking to elevate your leadership, increasing your productivity, effectiveness, and impact, and manage your health and well-being, spend quality time with those you love, and live your best life, then you are in the right place.
Our goal in this podcast is to equip you with new ways of thinking and practical and tactical strategies for succeeding at work and thriving in life. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of personal and professional development so you can reach your full leadership potential, create a life you love, and be what we are calling a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable or true leader.
If you are ready to learn and laugh a little, let's get started. Welcome to the studio and to the TRU Leader Podcast. My name is Michelle Trosett.
Oh, and I'm Tracy Christopherson. The other half of the dynamic duo here.
Yes. And we are back together again to bring you another solo episode, just the two of us, and talking about some more things about leadership.
Oh, always talking about leadership. Well, it is called the TRU Leader Podcast, I suppose.
There is a reason for that.
Yeah. So today we're talking about leading and living.
Leading and living, yes. And how to balance leading and living.
Yeah. How to get the most out of both, right?
And how to be the best you.
Yeah. And we're approaching the end of the year.
We are. It is almost the end of 2024.
I can't believe it.
When you're listening to this, it'll be the transition time between quarter 3 and quarter 4. And depending on when you listen, it could be next year.
Or the year after, or the year after that, right?
Yeah, but the point being, it is kind of coming up the end of the year. And we're still living in times of a lot of change in our work environments and our home environments. And Tracy and I keep reminding everyone we live in a VUCA world where there's a lot of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and every day we wake up and realize that. Just don't turn on the news.
Yeah. Stay away.
But when we get through, and we'll talk a little bit about that halfway through the year, it's always a good inflection point to stop and pause and just see how you're doing when it comes to the goals that you set for yourself for the year. And, if you've even set goals, and if you have, how are you doing? And both professional goals and personal goals, right? So it's just a really great time to do that. And sometimes it's always exciting at the beginning of the year when you set new goals and you are off and running, right? Here we go.
You're full of energy, right?
Yes.
You got this big vision in front of you of how the year's going to turn out, and you're so excited and ready to go. Your engines are revved up, right? You're like, whoo, this is going to be an incredible year.
Yeah. You get a lot of momentum. And then after time, you can kind of get tired and things come up for you. And, well, sometimes, as leaders, we just can even just put our foot in the brake.
Yeah.
And then we can slow our momentum down and kind of feel like, holy cow.
What did I say I'd do? Why did I say I'd do that? What was driving me towards that? Yeah. Sometimes that happens.
It does.
And sometimes it just happens around maybe one of your goals, maybe not all of your goals.
That's
right?
true.
Or maybe it's just one of them. You just can't quite seem to get there.
Can't bust through it.
No. And everybody determines their own level of success, right?
Yes.
And you're determining your success based mostly on the goals that you've set for yourself. And so, you kind of determine how you're moving towards those, what progress you're making around that. And really it's when we work with most leaders, their success when it comes to their career or their professional life really is about what kind of impact am I having, right? How are my relationships at work? What's the contribution I'm making? Am I aligned with my purpose? It's all those kinds of things really that kind of help them feel successful, like they're making progress towards that. And as Michelle mentioned, we're in this VUCA world, so there's a few bumps in the road, right? And it's about being adaptable and how am I navigating these significant challenges that are occurring in the workplace or in the work environment. And so when it comes to success in your career, it's a little bit of all of that, right? That can influence how you're feeling about how successful you are and what you're moving towards. And then, in our personal lives too, in our personal lives, it can be just about our health and well-being. Like, it can be our mental, our spiritual, our physical health. It can, for some people, just be about avoiding burnout because they're working so hard to achieve their success in their career. It can be a little bit, just a little bit about caring for yourself as well, and awareness that I need to take care of myself. And so success can look like that.
Take more time for yourself.
Yeah, for different people. Spend more time with your family, those kinds of things, right? Those might be some of the things that you're striving for when it comes to success in your personal life. And the topic today is how do we, sometimes lose focus on what we're doing, or how do we sometimes stop ourselves from achieving the things that we want to achieve, that we set out to achieve at the beginning of the year. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, we are. And when you realize that you're not being successful on those goals that you set, and you recognize that you're further away from your enthusiasm when you started working on those goals, it creates a gap, and we can become more and more consciously aware of the gap of what we set out to do and where we actually are. And that causes a lot of stress. That can stress you out when you realize I'm not where I thought I was going to be, right? And if we had to sum up the key mistakes that negatively impact leaders in being able to both lead and live to the best of their ability, and where we see leaders putting on the brakes, we would say that there's actually 4 brake pedals that we see in our work with leaders that we're going to share with you today, too, that kind of bubbled up to the top.
Yeah. And we know there's circumstances or things that are happening around you that you may feel are kind of keeping you from achieving your goals. But sometimes it's your foot on that brake that's keeping you from getting where you're at, right? Where you want to go. So, and keeping you where you are. So one of the first brake pedals that we might be pressing on is thinking about work-life balance is a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes, and this happens because our work, our career, and our personal lives are the things that we value the most, right? And these are 2 values. They're 2 interdependent values, right? And we value both of them highly. I mean, when you think about it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, is physical safety, right, security, and belonging and relationship, right?
Yes.
So right there are the 2, right? And they're at the bottom of the hierarchy of needs. So if these aren't being met, right, then we have stress. And when they seem to be competing with each other or contradictory to each other, then we really have a lot of stress. And history has shown us sometimes that, if I emphasize one, then I lose something in the other. So if I'm giving my attention to my work, I'm losing something at home. And if I give attention to home, I'm losing something at work. So it begins to feel like this zero-sum game, and the tension just rises and rises and rises, right? And you're just spending a lot of time thinking, well, this is a problem I have to solve. But every time you try to solve it, it just never goes away. And the tension continues to rise. And pretty soon you're just in this big whack-a-mole game, right? Just trying to relieve the tension wherever it's popping up. And you're not making any headway, right? And that in and of itself, that belief that this is a zero-sum game, a belief that you can't get beyond it just because you maybe haven't, is a way that you put your foot on the brake, and you just think, well, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Just can't go there. It's not ever going to happen. So I'm just going to keep just trying to, relieve the tension whenever I feel it pop up.
Yeah.
And that's the way we put our foot on the brake.
Then the other break that happens is when you start focusing on circumstances that pop up in your life. And there are always going to be circumstances that pop up in your life. And that's where you put your attention then. And then where your attention goes, that's where the energy goes. And so it's off the goals onto whatever is happening around you at the time. And when you do that, then pretty soon you're just circumstance driven. You just kind of shift into that mindset, and all of those things that are popping up too become circumstances, right? And then there's other new circumstances that come into your life. And what happens is you just all of your energy and attention shifts to everything outside of yourself that you don't have any control over. Yep. And so that's really important. That slows you down. It keeps your foot on the brake.
Yeah. And those are really the things that we don't want.
No.
Or the preferences that we have that aren't being met, right?
Yeah.
The leader that's not leading us the way I want to be leaded, or, right? Like the things that are happening around you that you're not happy with.
Yeah.
Right? The teammate you can't get along with, or, right? Just the policies that are being, implemented, the new technology that you've got that you just can't get along with. It's all those things that seem to be happening to you, right?
And it could even be personal things, family things.
Yeah.
Another family crisis, someone else needs you, or another situation where, you feel like you're the one that has to step in to help somebody. So it can be personal or professional.
Yeah, but it's all about that stuff, right? Outside of you.
Yeah.
That's working against you, you feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it really does. And then before you realize it, you've slipped into the victim mode, where, oh, poor me, right? And your circumstances become your persecutor when you think about the whole dreaded drama triangle. And, pretty soon you're throwing pity parties for yourself pretty much every day.
I've been there a few days.
Yes. So that's what happens.
Yeah.
With that break.
Well, you feel like you're just the victim of everything that's happening to you. You don't have any power, right?
Yeah.
Power's gone. And so that's the second break. The third break is back to those leadership norms. And we're here to just bust through these norms, but that's another way that we put our foot on the brake, is by following the leadership norms. Now, leadership norms are beliefs and behaviors, right, that shape how we act and what we do, and it's based on kind of like groupthink. And we grow up as leaders with these being indoctrinated with some of these norms. So we just come to behave this way, to believe these things because that's the way the leaders before us behaved, or that's the way the leaders around us behave. And we think this is what it means to be a leader. This is who I have to be, or how I have to be a leader. And, it really is subconscious. So most of what we're talking about here, don't feel bad about it, because most of it, you don't know what you don't know. And that's why we're bringing it to you. So we're not here to make you feel bad, but these are just the truths, right? These are just some things and experiences that when you become aware of them, you can change them. And that's the same thing with the norms, right? We're not even aware of it. We're just doing it, and some of those, right, can just be, when you're asked to do something as a leader or take something on, you do it.
Well,
because you don't say
no. I'm supposed to do it. I'm the leader.
I'm the leader. I'm the one that needs to do this, right? If somebody asks something of me, then I need to step up and do it. The organization comes first. My team comes first, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody before me. I'm the last man off the field. Leaders are responsible for the success of the organization, right? And some of the beliefs about this is just how it is. This is what a leader does. Right. So those are all kind of norms that begin to govern us. Right. Sometimes we'll just say too, like, I don't make the rules, I follow them. Right. Or, right, I have to do what's being asked of me. Like, I don't have a choice to not do what's being asked of me. Leaders sacrifice, all those kinds of things. And the other one too is that, work-life balance just isn't possible because I'm a leader.
A lot of leaders believe that one. Yeah. They do. Yeah. And then the fourth break is, this is such an easy one that happens to leaders too. It's just living in the definition of insanity. And that is trying to get different results by doing the same things over and over again. And this is just, again, not really looking at what's underneath the hood with your beliefs and your habits. You just keep doing it. Like, this worked last time, I'm going to do it again this time. But, then you find yourself in the same situation again. So it's really repeating the same things over and over and over again.
More and different. More and slightly different is not what's going to get you through a book of time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
What got you here won't get you there.
Yeah. So when you're trying to do more and you're trying to do it better, but you still have the underlying same beliefs and the same habits that you've always had, it's just like rearranging chairs in the Titanic. And you just don't make any progress.
It's not gonna make a difference. You're just gonna be exhausted.
Sad to say.
Right?
Sad to say.
Yeah.
And you really don't realize that that is a key break that is really preventing you from making progress and for you achieving your goals and your desired outcomes. So really, the best remedy is to develop a whole new operating system and to look at your beliefs and your habits and the perspectives that you've had in the past and then to make decisions and movement from a whole new operating system.
Yeah. And it's not that difficult to do, but it just takes intention, right? And so the other thing here is the best way to make that progress, and this is not rocket science, is to take your foot off the brake and put your foot on the accelerator. Just like when you want to go on a trip, right? And you're sitting in your driveway, having your foot on the brake, you're not going to go anywhere. So once you know where you're going, which we assume you do, right? You know what success looks like for you. Then, getting your foot off of the brake and putting it on the accelerator is the best way to get that momentum again, right? And so there's a few ways that you can take your foot off the brake, and so we're going to talk about those. And one of those is, and there's like 3 different ways that we do this, and there's more than that, but we're going to just talk about 3 different ways that we approach this. And one is just to recognize these triggers. What is it that makes you put your foot on the brake to start with, right? And when you know yourself in that regard, then you can keep your foot off the brake because you know what's triggering you. You can make different decisions or choices. So sometimes our triggers are our fears. It can be maybe I'm stepping outside my comfort zone, right? That might be even as simple as bringing your voice, that maybe you have a different perspective on something in your team or in a leadership group, and bringing your voice is a little bit uncomfortable, right? And so you can be a little fearful of that, especially when your perspective is very different from everybody else in the room. You're kind of like the lone one, right? And so if you have fears around that, then that's the way you're putting your foot on the brake. So it's really overcoming that and recognizing everybody has wisdom, and that, by acknowledging that in yourself, that I have wisdom to bring to the conversation, to the dialogue, right? Then you can begin to step out of that comfort zone. That's just an example. Another is stepping outside the leadership norms.
Yeah.
So this can look like boundaries, right? Like saying no. I have a boundary around this, or I have a non-negotiable. I can't stay every night right past 5:00. Like I have a commitment that I need to meet. That's just an example of putting a boundary and taking a stand for the boundary, which is sometimes outside leadership norms because leaders do whatever it takes, right? And another one might just be recognizing that sometimes a trigger can be the stress of uncertainty. So if you're somebody who really likes to know what's going to happen, we're in uncertain times, this can really stress you out, right? So not having that certainty can make you put your foot on the brake and not take the next step as well. So once you recognize that in yourself, is to recognize nobody knows what's going to happen, right? We never know exactly what's going to happen, and just gaining some comfort with you're doing the best you can, and whatever will come up, you'll be able to handle.
Yeah. Another thing that we do is we identify what serves us best and focus our attention there, right? Instead of what doesn't serve us best. And because where our attention goes, that's where the energy flows. And so examples of that are even recognizing our limiting beliefs that we do have, or just our thoughts. Pay attention to your thinking, and that what's bringing the energy down and what's creating positive energy. So we often do an exercise ourselves with leaders we work with, and just pay attention to that. Like, what is really draining my energy right now? And what really lights me up? And then how can I continue to move forward my goals with the positive energy, and really challenging my beliefs that things are hard. Well, if I believe they're hard, they're going to be hard. So that's one example, and just really paying attention to that. The other one is to identify gains in the progress that has been made. So it's really easy to focus on what hasn't been done, what we didn't get done, what the gaps are. But if you really live in the gain and recognize that everything is moving forward, everything's working for your greater good, it just keeps you in a space and an energy where you can keep your foot on the gas and not on the brake.
Well, and I think we've run into that too, even in our own business, right? When you set goals, and we're talking about the goals and whether you're being successful, when you're measuring forward, and we got this from Benjamin Hardy's book, The Gap and the Gain, when you're measuring forward to where you want to be, then you're going to focus on the gap, right? Because you're not where you want to be. But if you're focusing backwards from where you've come, that's when you can get your attention on the gain. You know, and that helps you feel better.
Yeah,
right?
It does. Definitely
focusing
does.
on the gap just sucks the life out of you. Well, you just feel bad. And whenever you feel bad, you're miscreating, right?
Yes.
And you're the creator of your experience.
Yes.
So, that's just another way to kind of think about that.
Yeah, and another thing you can do too is just look for new perspectives on a situation or different ways to look at, something that is kind of crops up. And we like to say, look at it 3 ways, 4 ways, 5 ways, 6 different ways. And you may find a way to move you forward. But if you just are looking at that one way that's keeping you stuck, that's not going to help you move forward. So getting a different perspective, even having someone else look at a situation to say, what's your thoughts on this? It might shift your perspective and then keep you moving forward as well.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think too, making sure that the perspective you're looking at is a more positive perspective.
Yes.
Not how else can I beat myself up around this, but a perspective that would be like, if this was like, to your point before, if you got a story about something's hard, if you could just ask yourself, what are 7 ways I could make this easy?
Yes, exactly.
Right? As an example. And then the last is identify the polarities at play. Surprise! Of course, we're going to talk about polarities, right? And I think the importance of this is that when we stay in that zero-sum game or that either-or thinking, right, that again is a way that we keep the brake on, because we're not seeing the possibility of both and. We're not seeing the possibility that there may be an interdependent relationship here, that there's a piece missing, that things could be, I could have a whole picture if I was looking for the other dependent part of this, right? So really knowing, wait a minute, this isn't a problem, this is a polarity at play, is a way to take your foot off the brake and then start to think about, okay, what am I experiencing, right? Am I in the downside of a unipolar perspective, right? Is there a both and here? Is there another way to see this, and that it's not a problem that I can solve? And then recognize where you're feeling resistance, because oftentimes if you are in a polarity and you're feeling resistance, is because you're sitting in your preference pool and something is pushing against what you value. So just being aware of that resistance, why you're feeling resistance, and what your preferences might be and how that's impacting how you're behaving or how you're viewing something, right? Seeing something. And then determine just one action. What's one thing I could do that would move me in a more positive direction or get me a positive outcome and give me one step forward towards what it is that I'm striving to achieve.
Yeah. And there's 2 real prevalent polarities related to this particular topic we're talking about, being successful and leading and living, that we work with leaders all the time on. And one of them is the polarity of your professional life and your personal life, and how to take action in both poles consistently. And there may be times that you have to put more emphasis on one pole or the other depending on what's happening in your life, but you never stop taking action on both of those poles.
Yeah, you always have to take some action to maintain the positive outcome, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what you were referring to, Tracy, with just taking the baby steps if you have to. And it may not be, perfect the way you like it all the time, but what we've learned is it's just the little things. You just keep moving forward. And identifying that and being proactive about that too. Once you really understand that the interdependency between your professional life and your personal life, then it helps you even step back with your planning towards your goals and planning towards your week to just be proactive on what you can or cannot do that week and get the resources and the help that you do need.
Yeah. Well, and it's shifting from a zero-sum game to a both-and game,
Yes,
right?
it
It
is.
is possible. It
Yes.
is totally possible. And that's it is foundational to being a true leader and foundational to really have it, to having what you really want.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
It really is. The second polarity is balancing your current reality with your desired future that you want as well. And we're in reality right now. We're always in reality. Look, I can touch you. We're in reality.
We are reality.
We're always in a current state, current reality. But we don't just stay there, right? We always have our eyes on what our desired future. So it's just another key polarity when it comes to balancing, leading, and living, that we're mindful of making the best, using the most positive energy, the best action in our current reality, and also taking those steps in the action on what is going to get us to the positive outcomes we want in our desired future state. And they don't, again, have to be huge, big things, but you're just constantly oscillating between the two and putting action to both of them.
Yeah. And I think it is about getting the best out of where you are today.
Yes.
Right? In whatever situation you're in as a leader, how can you reach those goals that you have set, right? What are the outcomes that you want, and what are the best actions you can take so that you're getting that momentum and building positive outcomes where you are, while you're also looking to the future, your vision of the future. Maybe that's not this year, maybe that's next year, right? But it's, again, just keeping both in mind. And when we, kind of goes back to the gap and the gain, when we look at the gap between where we are and where we want to be, that just creates negative energy and negative tension. It makes us put our foot on the brake. So then, right, we're not getting either. We're not getting the best out of where we are and the outcomes we want today, nor are we moving towards what we want tomorrow, right, or in the future. So it really is a critical polarity to leverage when you want to have both, when you want to both excel professionally in your career and live a thriving, fulfilling life.
Well, I can give you a good example that I just went through right now, and I think you did too. So we'll kind of banter here. One of them is in.
What you gonna say? What you gonna say?
I know this is. Ooh, here we go.
Ooh, here we go.
No, well, so my husband and I live together in a condominium, and we moved.
That's nice. You live together. That's good.
Yeah, and we're in
that place to start living together.
We're in that condo right now.
I live here part time too.
She does. But we moved in 3 years ago, and we totally, renovated it. It's beautiful, but it's been in kind of the same state for the last 3 years because Tracy and I have been building the business, and we've had family things go on, and so it's just been in this state for like 3 years. But now we've got company coming this summer. We've got family coming from out of town, and we were just like, are we going to stay here in this current reality forever? Or could we do one or two things just on that next vision of what we wanted to fulfill with everything else? So I remember standing in our kitchen one day. I'm like, we could go to the store and buy some paint and paint the island in our kitchen. We could do that one thing.
Yeah.
I said, we just have to decide we're going to do it, and let's go do it. And man, 2 hours later, we were at the Ace Hardware. We were buying the paint, and in 1 weekend, that thing was done.
Yeah, and your foot was on the brake before that.
Yeah, because
it takes too much time.
Yeah,
I don't have the energy.
I can't.
Right? You just
Yeah.
It's a zero-sum game. If I have to do this, then I'm giving up something over here, right? There's and we don't even know we're doing it.
No, we don't.
We just do it.
I'm like, let's just decide.
That's right. Yeah.
And now we're getting like a few pieces of art on the wall that we just have not done, but we're just doing it. So it's just like a simple example of like, okay.
Yeah.
We've been kind of over here more. We got to start moving over here more.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Right. Well, and it is, the best way to make progress is to get your foot off that brake, but to put it on the accelerator. So what are the things, right, that will accelerate your progress, accelerate your success, help you move towards your goals, the things that you really want, right? Which is to excel professionally in your career while at the same time you're living this fulfilling, thriving personal life, right? That's what we want. And the only way to live that, right, to live that fulfilling, thriving life and excel professionally is to be a true leader, right? Thriving, resilient, and unstoppable. That's the new operating system, right? And so to show leaders how they can put their foot on the accelerator and how they can get that success both professionally and personally, we've developed a new free webinar, right? Because too much to cover here in the podcast. So we have a new free webinar. It's called From Stress to Success, because all of these brake pedals are just causing more stress. They're really not helping you. They're really holding you back, right? So the new From Stress to Success, the formula for leaders to excel professionally and personally is the webinar. And in the webinar, we reveal really the formula we've used ourselves and we have been using for the past 4 years to help other leaders around the country who have become true leaders to excel professionally and personally while, right, they're living these incredible, thriving lives. They're having these amazing careers.
Amazing.
And so in the webinar, we really talk about what's been working for them as true leaders and what can work for you. So we want to encourage you to click the link in the show notes and register for the free webinar and so that you can learn yourself.
Yeah, come join us.
How to be a true leader and what it is, what that formula is for success, right? Mm-hmm. So, wow. That was fun.
It was.
That was a lot of fun. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you listening in. And if you found some value in this episode, please share it with others. If you think others would benefit from the webinar, share that with them as well. Share the link with them. We'd love to have you and your colleagues in the webinar. And, leave a comment, right, for us on any of our social media channels. You can always send us an email at questions, right, at missinglogic.com. And we'd love to hear from people, right? So leave a review. Let us know what you're getting from this. Subscribe so you don't miss any of these incredible, informative, exciting, fun episodes. Every week, right? And we look pretty good, too, if you like to watch us on video. We show up pretty well thanks to Michelle's wardrobe coordination activities. So you can watch us there, too. And we just really appreciate you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy.